Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different, well, at least different, based on what a lot of you have been requesting.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. So many of our listeners are really interested in learning more about personal finance, and I know I am too, so I figured, why not do a deep dive into a classic that's all about building wealth?
That's a fantastic idea. There's so much we can learn from those who came before us, even if they lived in a very different time.
Totally. And that's why we're going all the way back to ancient Babylon for this one. We'll be exploring The Richest Man in Babylon by George S. Clason, a book that's packed with timeless financial wisdom.
I love that book. It's amazing how it uses ancient Babylon as this backdrop to teach us about managing money, investing, and even building a fulfilling life.
Right, it's like stepping into a time machine. But instead of focusing on technology or social customs, we're going to be looking at how they handled their finances back then.
Because even though the world has changed so much, some things, like the principles of building wealth, really haven't changed all that much.
Exactly. And the book starts with this vivid, historical sketch of Babylon. It's known for its immense wealth, hanging gardens, massive
Oh
walls.
yeah, one of the wonders of the ancient world.
Totally. But here's the thing. It was built on a barren valley.
Oh, wow, I didn't realize that. So their wealth wasn't due to natural resources or anything?
Nope. They built their prosperity through trade, innovation, and get this, a really deep understanding of financial principles.
Fascinating. So they didn't just stumble upon wealth, they actively created it.
Exactly. I mean, think about it. They
Yeah.
developed irrigation systems, they were trading internationally, and they even came up with concepts like money and promissory notes.
Wow, those are some pretty significant financial innovations. It makes you wonder what we could learn from them.
Right. So even though Babylon is long gone, their financial wisdom could be super relevant to us today. It's like you're working hard, but you just never seem to get ahead financially.
Oh, I think we've all felt that way at some point. That feeling of being stuck in a rut no matter how much effort you put in.
Exactly. And in the book, there are these two characters, Bansir and Kobe, who are in that exact situation.
Oh, yes, I remember them. Banser is a chariot builder, right?
Yes, and Kobe was a musician. They're both hard-working individuals, but they're constantly broke.
It's a story that's so relatable, even thousands of years later, that universal desire for financial security, that feeling of wanting to build a good life for yourself and your family.
Absolutely. And their frustration is what leads them to seek advice from Arkad, the richest man in Babylon.
Arkad, he's the central figure in the book, isn't he?
He is. And his story really hooked me because he wasn't born rich. He was actually just a humble merchant's son.
Really? So he had to work his way up, just like Bansir and Kobe.
Yeah.
That makes his story even more inspiring.
Right. It gives you hope that no matter where you start, you can achieve financial success if you have the right mindset and follow the right principles.
I like that. So what was Arkad's secret? How did he go from being a merchant's son to the richest man in Babylon?
Well, it all started with this burning desire for wealth. He wasn't content with just scraping by. He wanted to build a life of abundance.
Ambition is definitely a key ingredient in any success story.
Totally. And his big turning point came when he learned this crucial lesson about saving from Algamish, a money lender.
A money lender. That's interesting. So even back then, people were borrowing and lending money.
Oh, yeah. It seems like some financial practices are as old as civilization itself. But what Algamish taught him was to save 1/10 of his earnings before spending on anything else.
That's interesting. So not just saving whatever's left over, but actually making saving a priority.
Exactly. And, applying this to today's world, saving 10% might sound daunting to some people.
Especially if you're living paycheck to paycheck or have a lot of expenses.
Right. But the core idea is consistency. It's about building that habit of setting aside a portion of your income, no matter how small, before you even think about spending.
Like paying yourself first.
Exactly. Put that money into a savings account or an investment that will grow over time.
So even small, consistent savings can add up over time.
Exactly. Now, what's fascinating is that even Arkad, with all his financial wisdom, wasn't immune to mistakes.
Oh, really? Everyone makes mistakes, I guess, even the richest man in Babylon.
Yeah. Remember that story about him buying fake jewels?
Oh, yeah. He got tricked by a shady merchant, right?
He did. It's a classic example of why it's so important to seek advice from experts in the field you're investing in. The book actually calls this the fourth law of gold.
Which is?
Guard thy treasures from loss by seeking advice from those skilled in its keep. Basically, don't fall for those get-rich-quick schemes or trust unqualified sources with your hard-earned money.
That's great advice, especially today with so many scams and risky investment schemes out there.
Right. So it seems like getting expert advice is key, even in ancient Babylon.
Oh, absolutely. It's more important than ever to do your research, find trustworthy financial advisors, and learn the basics of investing yourself.
So true. And, after learning from his mistakes, Arcot eventually masters the art of wealth building. He becomes so successful that the king actually asks him to share his knowledge with a group of 100 Babylonians.
Wow, that's quite an honor. The king recognizing his financial wisdom.
It is. And what he teaches them are what he calls the 7 cures for a lean purse.
Those 7 cures, they're like the heart of the book, aren't they? A roadmap to financial well-being.
They really are. And the amazing thing is that they're surprisingly relevant, even today.
Like, what's the first cure? I'm trying to remember.
It start thy purse to fattening, which basically means saving at least 110th of your earnings before you spend anything else.
Ah, yes. Back to that fundamental principle of saving.
Exactly. It seems like saving really is a cornerstone of personal finance, both in ancient Babylon and in our modern world.
It definitely is. And even if 10% feels out of reach right now, the key is to start somewhere. Even saving a small amount consistently can make a big difference over time.
So true. Okay, what about the second cure? What does that one say?
The second cure is control thy expenditures, which is all about budgeting, right?
It is. It means tracking your income and expenses, making sure you're not spending more than you earn, and making conscious choices about where your money goes.
That's a good practice for anyone, regardless of how much they earn. It's about being intentional with your money and making sure it's working for you, not against you.
Exactly. And the third cure is where things get really interesting. It's make thy gold multiply.
Ah, now we're talking. Making that money work for you. So this is about investing.
You got it. Arcad teaches that you should invest your savings wisely so that it generates passive income.
I'm curious, how did they invest back then? I mean, they didn't have stock markets or mutual funds like we do today.
Well, they didn't have those exact things, but they had other ways to invest. They lent money for interest, invested in businesses, and of course owned property.
Oh, like real estate.
Yeah, things like that. And there's this great story about Arcad lending gold to Agur, the shield maker, and how that loan helped Agur grow his business. It's a simple example of how investing can create another stream of income.
That's so cool. Lending money for a return, it's an investment strategy that stood the test of time.
It really has. And one of the most powerful concepts tied to investing is compound interest. The book has this really cool story about a farmer, his son, and a single piece of silver to illustrate this.
Oh, yeah. How the farmer gives his son this silver coin to invest, and over time, it grows into a small fortune.
Exactly. It shows how even small, consistent investments, when given time to grow, can create significant wealth.
That's the magic of compound interest. It's like watching a snowball roll down a hill, getting bigger and bigger as it goes.
So true. And I think a lot of people today struggle with the idea of investing. It can feel overwhelming, especially if you're just starting out.
Definitely. There's so much information out there, and it can be hard to know where to begin.
Right. But The Richest Man in Babylon actually offers some really practical advice for new investors. Remember the fourth cure, guard thy treasures from loss.
Yes, protect your savings from risky investments and scams.
Exactly. It emphasizes the importance of doing your research, finding a trustworthy financial advisor, and starting with small, manageable investments.
So it's about being cautious, informed, and not jumping into something you don't understand.
Precisely. Now, the fifth cure is super interesting because it gives us a glimpse into Babylonian society. It's make of thy dwelling a profitable investment.
What does that mean exactly?
Basically, it means owning your home instead of renting.
Home ownership. And that's something that's still considered a key part of building wealth today.
Absolutely. But it's fascinating that it was already seen as important back in ancient Babylon. Of course, the details of home ownership were probably quite different back then.
Oh, I'm sure. But the principle is the same. Owning your home builds equity, creates stability, and can be a source of pride.
Totally.
Oh.
And in the book, it even mentions how slaves in Babylon could aspire to homeownership through responsible borrowing and disciplined saving.
That's amazing. It shows how deeply ingrained these financial principles were in their culture and how homeownership was seen as a path to freedom and security, even for those who started in difficult circumstances.
Absolutely. Okay, let's move on to the sixth cure. What does that one say?
A sixth cure is ensure a future income.
Ah, yes. This one seems particularly relevant today, with people thinking about retirement planning and all that.
Right, but they didn't have things like 401ks or pensions back then, did they?
They didn't. But they still understood the importance of planning for the future and ensuring they had resources to draw on when they were no longer able to work.
Makes sense. So what did they do?
Our God talks about securing assets like land, building houses for rental income, maintaining long-term savings, and even hints at the concept of insurance.
Wow, so they were already thinking about diversifying their income streams and creating a safety net for their later years.
Exactly. They understood that just as you protect yourself from physical threats, you also need to protect yourself from financial hardship.
And finally, what's that last cure? The seventh one.
It's increase thy ability to earn.
Increase your earning potential. That one seems especially important in today's world where things are changing so rapidly.
Totally. It's about continuously developing your skills, knowledge, and expertise so that you can command higher wages and create more opportunities for yourself.
It's about investing in yourself.
Exactly. And the book emphasizes that you don't have to make huge, sweeping changes all at once. You can start with small, incremental steps, like taking a course, learning a new skill, or simply reading more books in your field.
So it's about having a growth mindset and being open to new possibilities.
Precisely. And, there's this great story in the book about a dissatisfied gardener who completely transforms his life.
Oh yeah, he had this burning desire to improve his circumstances.
Exactly. And he does it by focusing on a single attainable desire. He breaks it down into smaller steps and celebrates each achievement along the way.
That's so inspiring. It's a reminder that we all have the potential to achieve our goals, even if they seem daunting at first.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, so we've covered the 7 cures for a lean purse, which is essentially a roadmap for financial well-being. But there's so much more to uncover in The Richest Man in Babylon, like these fascinating concepts of luck and the 5 laws of gold.
Ooh, that's next time on the deep dive.
You got it. Stay tuned. We'll be diving deeper into those topics in our next episode. All right, so we've talked about those 7 cures for a lean purse, which are like a guide to building wealth.
They really are, like a step-by-step plan.
But one thing that I'm curious about is this idea of luck.
Luck, oh yeah. Everyone loves to talk about luck.
Right, like you hear people say, oh, he was just born under a lucky star, or she's got the Midas touch.
Yeah, like some people are just destined for wealth and success.
But I'm wondering, does the richest man in Babylon actually believe in random luck? Or is it more nuanced than that?
Well, there's a whole chapter titled The Goddess of Good Luck that dives right into this.
Ooh, interesting. So they actually had a goddess of luck.
They did, but the story doesn't just say, oh yeah, luck is everything, and some people have it and some people don't.
So it's not as simple as that.
No. It kind of challenges that idea that luck is purely random. It suggests that opportunities might pop up randomly, but what you do with those opportunities, that's what makes the difference.
Oh, I see. So it's more about being prepared to seize those opportunities when they present themselves.
Exactly. And, the story gives these different scenarios to illustrate this.
Oh, like what?
Well, there's this one about a cloth weaver who finds a purse full of gold just lying in the street. I mean, talk about a stroke of luck, right?
Hey, like winning the lottery.
Exactly. But instead of using that money wisely, he becomes obsessed with finding more easy money, like, oh, if I found it once, it'll happen again.
Oh, no. So he's chasing that feeling of luck instead of actually working to build wealth.
Yeah, and he ends up neglecting his work, making bad decisions, and ultimately, he ends up right back where he started, broke.
That's a cautionary tale for sure. It's like that saying, easy come, easy go.
Yeah.
If you don't have the skills or the mindset to manage money, even a sudden windfall can disappear quickly.
Absolutely. Then there's this other story about a merchant who keeps hearing about this amazing land development opportunity.
Ooh, like an investment opportunity.
Yes, but he keeps putting off making a decision. He's too busy, he's too cautious, he's overthinking it.
I can relate to that. Sometimes making a decision, especially when it involves money, can feel really scary.
I get it. But in his case, all that hesitation, it ends up costing him. The opportunity passes him by, and he later finds out that it would have been incredibly profitable.
So sometimes not making a decision is the worst decision of all.
Exactly. And, there's even a story about a cattle buyer who gets tripped into a bad deal because he's too slow to act.
So he misses out because of his hesitation.
Yeah. He sees this great herd of cattle, but while he's thinking it over, someone else swoops in and buys them all up.
So the moral of these stories is that, well, luck might play a small part, but it's really about being prepared to act, trusting your instincts, and being decisive when the time is right.
Exactly. You got to seize those opportunities when they come knocking.
So it's not just about waiting for luck to strike. It's about putting yourself out there, taking calculated risks, and making things happen.
Now let's move on to what's probably the most well-known part of The Richest Man in Babylon.
You mean the 5 laws of gold?
Yes. Those 5 laws, they're like the golden rules of wealth building.
They really are. And I love how they're presented through this story within a story.
Oh, right, with Calabab, the camel trader.
Yes. He's sharing his wisdom with his chief packer, but he learned those laws from someone else, right?
Yeah, from Nomasir, the son of Arkad.
Oh, right. So even though he grew up wealthy, he still had to learn these lessons.
His father gave him a bag of gold and a clay tablet with those 5 laws written on it, like a test.
To see if he was worthy of inheriting the family fortune.
Exactly. And he had to learn those lessons the hard way through his own mistakes and experiences.
Well, let's break those laws down and see how they might apply to us today.
Right. The first law is, gold cometh gladly, and an increasing quantity to any man who will put by not less than 1/10 of his earnings to create an estate for his future and that of his family.
So back to that 10% rule.
Right. Saving consistently is foundational.
But what happened with Nomasir? Did he follow that rule right away?
Oh, no, not at first. He went out and spent all that gold his father gave him on silly things, reckless investments.
He had to learn the hard way, huh?
He did. He lost everything, and he had to start from scratch, just like anyone else.
It's a good reminder that even if you start with advantages, you can lose it all if you don't manage your money wisely.
Okay, ready for the second law?
Hit me with it.
Gold laboreth diligently and contentedly for the wise owner who finds for it profitable employment, multiplying even as the flocks of the field.
Okay, so this is about investing, right? Making your money work for you.
Exactly. Find those opportunities where your money can grow, like those flocks of sheep that keep having lambs.
So investing wisely so that your money multiplies over time, like compound interest.
Yes. Just like that story of the farmer and the silver coin, it's about putting your money to work, not just letting it sit idle.
Okay, what's the third law?
Gold clingeth to the protection of the cautious owner who invests it under the advice of men wise in its handling.
So seeking expert advice again.
Exactly. Don't just jump into any investment because it sounds good or because someone you barely know told you about it.
Get advice from people who know what they're doing.
Yes. Talk to financial advisors. Do your research. Learn about different investment strategies. Don't be afraid to ask questions.
That's good advice for anyone, really. All right, what's the fourth law?
Gold slippeth away from the man who invests it in businesses or purposes with which he is not familiar, or which are not approved by those skilled in its keep.
So kind of like Arkad's experience with the fake jewels.
Exactly. Investing in something you don't understand is a recipe for disaster. And Nomasir, he made that mistake too. He got involved in this business partnership that sounded amazing on the surface.
But it turned out to be a flop.
A total flop. He lost a bunch of money because he didn't do his due diligence.
So don't let greed or excitement cloud your judgment.
Right. Take your time, do your research, and make sure you understand the risks involved before investing your hard-earned money.
Makes sense. What's the last law?
The fifth law is, gold flees the man who would force it to impossible earnings, or who followeth the alluring advice of tricksters and schemers, or who trusts it to his own inexperience and romantic desires in investment.
Wow, that's a mouthful. But basically it's saying don't fall for get-rich-quick schemes.
Exactly. Those promises of unrealistic returns, those too good-to-be-true investments.
They're always a red flag.
Always. It's like those scams you see online, promising you'll make a fortune overnight. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
So those 5 laws really emphasize the importance of being cautious, informed, and realistic when it comes to investing.
And patient. Building wealth takes time. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Well said. And you know, the book reinforces these laws with another fantastic story. This one's about Rodin, the spear maker.
Oh yeah, I remember him. He receives a gift of 50 gold pieces, but isn't sure what to do with it.
That's relatable. Suddenly coming into money can be overwhelming if you don't have a plan.
Right. So he goes to Mathon, the gold lender, for advice.
So Mathon, he's like the wise financial guru of Babylon.
He is. And he gives Rodin this really important piece of advice. Better a little caution than a great regret.
Words to live by, right?
Totally. And Mathon, he uses these stories from his token chest, each one representing a loan he made.
Oh, I love that part. It's like each token has a story to tell, a lesson about responsible lending.
And those stories emphasize things like securing loans, assessing the borrower's character, and not letting emotions cloud your judgment when it comes to lending money.
It's like a crash course in responsible lending, but with a storytelling twist.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the things that makes this book so powerful. It takes these complex financial concepts and makes them relatable and engaging through stories.
Okay, so we've talked about saving, investing, the importance of expert advice, even responsible lending. It's amazing how these principles from ancient Babylon still hold true today.
Right. It's like human nature and the principles of finance, they're kind of timeless.
And the richest man in Babylon,
Hmm.
it doesn't stop there. It uses this powerful metaphor in the walls of Babylon to talk about building a strong and secure life.
Oh, yes. That story about old Banzar, the soldier, during the siege.
Right. He assures the terrified citizens that the walls of Babylon will protect them.
But those walls, they represent something much bigger than just physical protection.
Yeah, it's like they symbolize building a solid financial foundation.
Exactly. Like all those things we've been talking about, saving, investing wisely, being insured, those are the things that protect you from financial hardship, those unexpected events that can throw your life into chaos.
It's like those financial walls protect you from those financial storms.
Right. They give you that sense of security and stability.
But what about those who are already in trouble, facing debt or struggling to make ends meet?
Well, the book addresses that too through the story of Dabasir, the camel trader.
Oh, yes. He meets this young man named Tarkad, who's drowning in debt.
Exactly. And Dabasir shares his own story about how he overcame debt and achieved success.
And his story is so inspiring. It shows that even if you hit rock bottom financially, there's always hope.
He was actually a slave at one point.
Wow. So how did he turn things around?
Well, there's this pivotal moment where he realizes that where the determination is, the way can be found.
I love that. It's like if you're truly committed to changing your circumstances, you'll find a way.
And he did. He embraces hard work, he makes a plan to pay off his debts, and eventually he becomes this successful camel trader.
It's a classic tale of redemption and the power of perseverance.
And then the book takes this interesting turn with the discovery of the clay tablets from Babylon.
Oh, yes. Those ancient tablets, like a lost treasure trove of financial wisdom.
And guess what? They were written by Dabasir himself.
So he wrote down his own journey to financial freedom.
He did. And they're like this ancient self-help guide to getting out of debt, full of practical advice that's still relevant today.
Amazing. So even thousands of years ago, people were struggling with debt and figuring out ways to overcome it.
It's a timeless problem, and thankfully there are timeless solutions, like the ones Dabasir outlines in those clay tablets.
So it's not just about inspirational stories. It's about practical steps you can take to get your finances in order.
Exactly. And the book really encourages you to apply those ancient principles to your modern life. You might be surprised how effective they still are.
Okay, so we've seen the power of saving, the pitfalls of procrastination and bad investments, and the inspiration of Dabasir's journey. Is there anything else in this treasure trove of wisdom?
Oh, yes. The book wraps up with a story about Shahrunada, a wealthy merchant, and his grandson, Hadan Gula.
What happens in that one?
Well, Shahrunada is worried about his grandson. He's got this sense of entitlement, doesn't want to work, thinks the world owes him everything.
Ah, the classic story of the spoiled rich kid.
Exactly. And Shahrunada wants to teach his grandson a valuable lesson about the importance of hard work and where their wealth came from.
So what does he do?
Well, to teach his grandson a lesson, he shares his own story, and it's a pretty amazing one.
Oh, what's so amazing about it?
Well, Shahrunada wasn't always wealthy. In fact, he starts out as a slave in Babylon.
A slave. So he built his fortune from absolutely nothing.
Exactly. He lost everything in a gambling mishap and ended up being sold into slavery.
Wow, that's a tough break. But I'm guessing he didn't stay a slave forever?
Oh no, definitely not. His story is all about hard work, resilience, and making the most of opportunities.
So he eventually earned his freedom.
He did, but it wasn't easy. He was really inspired by this other slave, Megiddo, who had this incredible work ethic and always found joy in his labor.
So it's like even in those difficult circumstances, Megiddo found meaning and purpose in his work.
Exactly. And Shahrunada, he realized that hard work wasn't just about earning money. It was about building character, developing skills, and earning respect.
So he learned from Megiddo's example and started looking for opportunities to improve his own situation.
He did. He was always eager to learn new things, and he eventually saved enough money to buy his freedom.
Wow, that's incredible. But how do we go from being a freed slave to a wealthy merchant?
Well, he started small. He had this idea to sell honey cakes.
Honey cakes, that's so interesting.
Right, and it was a huge success. People loved his honey cakes, and he built this thriving little business.
What a great example of entrepreneurship, turning a simple idea into a profitable venture.
Right, and later on, he partners with Arad Gula, who is also a former slave but had become successful through hard work and smart business deals.
Wait, Arad Gula? Is that Hadan Gula's grandfather?
It is. So, you see, the story comes full circle. Both of Hadan Gula's grandfathers were once slaves who built their fortunes through hard work and determination.
So Sharonada's story is showing his grandson that wealth isn't just about luck or inheritance. It's about effort, dedication, and building something valuable.
Exactly. And Sharunada emphasizes that work brought him more than just money. It brought him friendships, respect, and a sense of accomplishment.
So it's like that saying, find a job you love and you'll never work a day in your life.
Right. When you're passionate about what you do, it doesn't feel like a chore. It becomes a source of joy and fulfillment.
Did Sharunada's story have the intended effect on Hadan Gula? Did he finally get it?
He did. Hearing about his grandfather's struggles and triumphs, it really changed his perspective. He realizes how shallow and entitled he's been.
So he sheds that sense of entitlement and embraces the value of hard work.
Exactly. He starts to appreciate the legacy that's been passed down to him, and he's inspired to build his own path to success.
That's such a great ending. It shows that even those who seem resistant to these ideas can change when they see the real-world impact of those principles.
It's never too late to learn and grow.
So after diving deep into The Richest Man in Babylon, what are the key takeaways for our listener who might be on their own journey to financial freedom?
Well, the book really drives home the point that even though the world has changed a lot since ancient Babylon, the fundamental principles of building wealth are still relevant today.
Those timeless truths about saving, investing, and managing your money wisely.
Exactly. And the book reminds us that financial success isn't just about luck or getting rich quickly. It's about making those consistent efforts, developing good habits, and having the patience to see those efforts pay off over time.
It's about playing the long game.
Exactly. And I think one of the most inspiring aspects of the book is that it shows that anyone can achieve financial success regardless of their background or current circumstances.
Like those stories of Dabasir and Sharunada, rising from slavery to build wealth and create a better life for themselves and their families.
It's a powerful reminder that we all have the potential to improve our financial well-being, no matter where we're starting from.
So it's really about empowering yourself, taking control of your finances, and building a more secure and fulfilling life.
Absolutely. And The Richest Man in Babylon gives you those tools and those insights to make those dreams a reality.
Well said.
Yeah.
So, dear listener, as we wrap up this deep dive, we encourage you to reflect on the lessons that resonated with you. What sparked a new idea? What shifted your perspective?
Maybe you're finally ready to commit to saving that 10%. Or maybe you're inspired to seek out a financial mentor. Or perhaps it's simply a change in mindset, viewing money as a tool to build the life you want.
Whatever it is, take that inspiration and turn it into action. Don't wait for the perfect time or let fear hold you back. Start small, be consistent, and keep learning.
Remember, your journey to financial freedom starts today.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this incredible deep dive into The Richest Man in Babylon. Until next time, happy diving.